Yo, say YouTube, what a great picture here. DGP back again with another episode of Patriot Keys. This is the off-season edition, as we are going to talk about in this video the offensive grades, position group wise for this year. I have had this written down kind of for a while. I kind of went back and tweaked it a little bit because I was going to do it for regular season and the postseason, but I figured let's all put that all together. And if you haven't been living on the rock, if we had to grade this season an A+ because we won the Super Bowl, but I'm just going to give my grades for each positional group. For this week, offense, so we're going to talk about quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, the tight ends, and the offensive line. And then in the next video, in the part 2 version, we'll talk about defense and special teams. So the defensive line, linebackers, the secondary, and the kicker and the punter, and, return especially, all that good stuff. So this right here, like I said, part 1. So if you guys want to see part 2, drop a like on the video, and I will get part 2 ASAP. So without further ado, and if you guys don't know, when I do my Patriot Keys video, when I talk about the review of the game, I typically give grades out. So I've kind of used that, and also just in the total of the season, how what grades I gave them in after each game, and I kind of just looked over the season, and I kind of combined those two together, and this is what I got my grades for. So without further ado, let's get into it. So quarterbacks. Let's start with the quarterbacks. We already know how I feel about the quarterbacks. I'm giving it an A+, not just because one quarterback played, not just because Brady played well. This group gets an A+ because with Jimmy G in about 1.5 games played, because he did get hurt in the second game he was starting, played exceptionally well, 4 touchdowns, 0 interception, completely nearly 70% of his passes. Jacoby Brissett, he did okay when we had to rely on him for about 1.5 games. Jimmy G was in 2.5 games, I believe, pardon me. But yeah, Jimmy G did his thing. Brissett did his thing too. He had a nice bootleg run in week 3. If I'm not mistaken, it was week 3. He had a nice bootleg run in the 2.5 games that he played. But that was pretty much it. He didn't do much. So, we went 3-1 with Jimmy G and Brissett. Jimmy G 1.5 games. I guess he got the 2 wins. And Brissett got that 1 win and the 1 loss against the Bills, which we just weren't trying to get him hurt, so we just ran the ball the whole game. So that brings us to the next quarterback, Tom Brady, who returned week 5 and lit the whole NFL on fire in all the games he played, which he played 15 this year, including the playoff games. So regular season he played 12, and then the postseason he played 3. So in 15 games this year, Brady does what Tom Brady does: 4,700 yards, 35 TDs, 5 interceptions. And keep in mind, 3 of those interceptions was in the playoffs, and they were kind of bad throws, bad decisions on his part. And so in 15 games this year, he played 4,700. He passed 4,700 yards, 35 TDs, 5 picks, and he had a historical Super Bowl performance, probably the best performance of all time. So I'm giving the quarterback grade an A+. Quarterbacks, y'all did y'all thing this year. You held it down. Moving on to the running backs. Now, the running back core, this is going to surprise you. I'm giving them a B+. Yes, I'm giving them a B+ because LeGarrette Blount this season had led the NFL rushing touchdowns with 18. Wasn't utilized much in the playoffs. I think it was injuries and the matchup-wise. But in terms of when Brady was out for the first 4 weeks, we led the league in rushing, and LeGarrette Blount was the reason. He was the MVP for the first 4 weeks if we had to pick one for the Patriots when Brady was out. Now, let's talk about Dion Lewis. Now, he was hurt because he tore his ACL last year, then hurt it again in preseason, so he didn't really play. He only played half the season, half the regular season, and then in the playoffs. And his streak of when he's on the field, we have never lost. I believe our record now is 18-0 or 19-0, something like that. When Dion Lewis is healthy and he's on the field, we have yet to lose since acquiring him last year. So that's something to be noted. He had a huge playoff game in the divisional round where he scored a rushing touchdown, got a receiver touchdown, and even a kickoff touchdown. Scored 3 different times in that game. He did well. He gave us the spark that we needed in the second half of the year when Gronkowski was officially out, and we'll get to the tight end core. James White, who didn't do much all year, was really a role player, stepped up big, of course, in the Super Bowl with 14 catches, 110 yards, and 3 total touchdowns, including a game-winning touchdown in overtime. So, running back core, they did a great job, better than what they did last year. This is probably the best running back core we've had in a while, so I'm giving them a B+. Now, for the wide receivers, Edelman, who had the highest yard total with 1,100 yards in his career, 96 catches to go with that, but he only had 3 touchdowns. Wasn't really much a factor in the touchdown game, which he never really is. Who we usually use him for clutch plays, not much of a scoring role. But, second half of the year, he got a little bit more involved in the offense once Brady got his foot in and needed him, especially with Gronk going down. Danny Amendola, in his newfound role as more so a fourth-string wide receiver, didn't do too bad. He kept getting hurt, though, so that's kind of a tragic thing. And all this whole season, he never caught more than 4 passes, except for in the Super Bowl. He had 8 catches, 70 yards, and that 2-point conversion to give us the tie game. Chris Hogan, who we signed on a 3-year, $12 million deal this past offseason, is proven to be a steal, especially in the postseason. This postseason, 17 catches, 332 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Pretty much, you double that. That is what his whole regular season was. So in 3 games, he had half of what he did all regular season. So it proved to us that in the postseason, Chris Hogan was lighting the other team up. Giving us the splash plays we need now. Let's talk about the rookie, Malcolm Mitchell, who was quiet until week 11, until Gronkowski again went down with an injury. These guys had to step up. Versus the 49ers, Gronk and Amendola was down, actually, for a matter of fact. He broke out week 11 with 4 catches, 98 yards, and a touchdown. From week 11 to week 17, he tallied up 26 catches, 306 yards, and 4 TDs. Playoffs, he only had 1 catch for the first 2 games, but in the Super Bowl, he had 6 receptions for 70 yards. So these guys kind of was hit and miss for the most part. Like, one receiver goal, but then the other ones wouldn't be doing good. So, they was hit and miss. So I'm going to give the wide receiver core a B for the season. So they get a B. So far we got quarterbacks with the A+, running backs with a B+, wide receivers with a B. So, we're still doing pretty good. But we are declining a little bit. Tight ends, I'm gonna let you know the grade afterwards. But Gronkowski only played in 8 games, never really himself for most of those games. Pretty much 3-4 games, Gronkowski was 100% healthy. He was bottled with injuries all year long. Preseason, he got hurt. He was waiting for Brady to come back. Then he got hurt when Brady came back. But although he wasn't himself he was only himself for a quarter of the year, he had 25 catches, 546 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Shows you how important he is when he's healthy. Martellus Bennett, the guy who we traded for, this past season was the insurance for Gronk when he got hurt, and that was the difference this year. Because usually when Gronk goes down, we suffer drastically because we don't have that big body in the middle of the field. But that changed this year, though. Bennett showed he's still most teams' #1 tight end. 55 catches, 701 yards, and 7 TDs. Was more of a factor, though, also in the run game, because with that frame, with 6'6", about 280, he's just another offensive lineman out there when we run it. Even though he was banged up all year long with ankle injuries, but he battled through it. So the tight ends, I'm giving them a B+, especially Martellus Bennett. Martellus Bennett, actually, for me, I will give him an A on the season because what he brought to the table. Because typically, like I said, when Gronkowski goes down, our offense plummets. And because Bennett was there, our offense kind of stayed the ship. Last thing, let's talk about the offensive lineman now. Marcus Cannon, our right tackle, stepped up huge this year into the talent. We always knew he had the potential we had when we drafted him about 5-6 years back. And him and Solder, who was actually healthy this year all year, helped secure the bookends. So that helps the quarterback, all 3 quarterbacks, knowing that, hey, inside is going to be our struggle, which it actually was, but we'll get into that later. Marcus Cannon did a phenomenal job against pass rushers like Von Miller, Vic Beasley, and more, proving that, he deserved the contract that he got, this past offseason. Our interior, though, again, is the low point of the offensive lineman. And it showed in the Super Bowl. Grady Jarrett was looking like Reggie White in the Super Bowl. Besides that game, though, when Grady Jarrett was destroying Shaq Mason in the Super Bowl, Shaq Mason was decent. Thuney and Andrews, they did an okay job. But, man, having our offensive lineman be healthy and having our former offensive lineman coach for about 13 years, retired in 2013, Dante Scarnecchian. He came back after a 3-year absence. What's the difference in our protection? And you can tell the difference. Last year, we had 38 sacks allowed. This year, 24 sacks allowed. So 14 sack difference with health and our returning offensive line coach come back. So that was a huge part of the thing, and I'm going to give the offensive lineman a B+. So to review all that, quarterbacks get an A+, running backs get a B+, wide receivers get a B, and the tight ends get a B+, and the offensive lineman get a B+. So on average, that average is up to about a B+ to an A- range, more so a B+. So offense did their thing, B+ job, man. Everybody did good. It wasn't too much where we was like, this is the reason why we're losing. Like, this is the reason why, even though we won the Super Bowl, this is the reason why we could have been better. It could have been better around, but everybody did their job, did a good job. So that is the grades. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I will have the defense coming out soon. Like, subscribe, comment, all that great stuff. And I'll catch y'all later, Pass Nation. Peace.